What's up?
Are we still live? Cool. We have audio. Okay, hello. Let's try this again. Hector, if you say it again.
Yeah, Hector, do your sick burn again.
He's going to, I'm sure. Hello. I'm Rachel Heine. I do have a voice, unlike certain mermaids out there. And I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerdist. And this is Nerdist Book Club. And joining me, as always, are Geekbomb's Maude, Garrett.
Hello.
And DC Daily's Hector Navarro.
Say it.
I'm also editor-in-chief of Wine.
No, you did have to say it again because I'm going to be mad about it the whole episode. So otherwise, I'm just kidding. We can share the mantle of heads of wine for book club. But welcome to everyone who's joining us. This is Nerdist Book Club. We just started last week. We sort of introduced ourselves. Hopefully, if you haven't checked out that episode, you can check it out on Nerdist right now. We talked about our favorite books and things like that. But at the end of the show, we also voted to pick our book for the month of April, and we landed on
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are Maude and I's books the same size, but she has a tiny head and mine is massive? Who knows?
Wait, really? Are they the same size?
No.
The same size.
I can't tell. I did the audiobook, but yeah, each month we're going to be reading a different book. So this is our first one kicking off the new Nerdist Book Club. And I'm super, super excited that we're reading this one. I haven't read this book since I was 12 or 13 probably. So, without getting too specific, we'll get into the deep dives later. But what did both of you think of this so far? Have you read it before? Refresh my memory.
Maude, why don't you take this one first? Because you've never read this.
Yeah.
This is my first time reading the book. I tried to read A Fellowship of the Ring when I was 18, and I quickly bowed out after about 17 pages of 9,000 words.
Oh, I lost Maude. I don't know if anyone else did.
There we go. Just
Sorry.
the last couple of words. Just
Yeah.
after 9,000
My audio
words.
likes to skip.
But it's only when you talk, Maude. It's only when you talk.
Well, no, I had problems with it this morning when I had to watch a movie, and like every 25 seconds it goes offline for 4 or 3.
Oh boy. But
That's
you were
fun.
saying, Maude, that you bowed out of Fellowship of the Ring, which I think is really understandable, especially for somebody trying to get into the world. So I'm dying to know, what did you think of Hobbit?
You can tell the decade it's written. Bothersome, and the past tenses and present tenses going between the narrator and the story is infuriating.
Oh, really? I didn't. Are you listening to it or reading it?
Reading it.
Got it. That I feel like I would notice that more if I were reading it. I am doing the audiobook. The songs are funny because it's just one guy and he does all the songs. Let us know in the chat if you are listening to or reading the book. Hector, did you read this as a kid?
No, but I read it, I think, in 2012 when the first movie came out.
Got it.
So I read it 8 years ago or something. I don't know if it was 2012 or if it was like 2013 or 2014. Whenever one of the movies came out, I read it for the first time then and thought it was delightful. And so now I'm reading it for the second time and also think that it is delightful. Oh, we got a cat cameo. First one. Hi. What a lovely cat moment. Wow, my cats will never do that. They will never do that.
Well, now he's trying. No, that's where all the technology works.
Zelda's at my feet.
Note to self, always 2 zooms in this particular chair. Yeah, in the chat, Cody Castillo says the last time that they read The Hobbit was 20 years ago. Clever Girl read it in junior high school. Rachel Beaver also chose to do the audiobook as well. So we've got a mix of everything.
Rachel, is this the first time you read the book? No, you read it when you were 12, right?
I read it when I was, somewhere around there. And I know it's crazy because I loved it when I was younger. I might have been young. I don't remember exactly how old, but I do remember that I loved it so much. I got like the set of books. I used to get only gift certificates to Barnes and Noble and Borders like my entire childhood from random aunts and stuff. And I would collect like $20 ones and have like a stack and then go and spend. My dad would just drop me off and I would be like, I'll see you in 3 hours. I'm going to try to figure out what I'm getting. But I couldn't get into Lord of the Rings. I don't know. I'm interested now to try it, maybe an audiobook. Especially now this was obviously way before, I mean, not way before the movies came out. Let's not talk about how old I am, but it's been a joy to listen to it. I'm doing I think it's the record it now in major motion picture. So it came out recently, this audiobook, but there's also a radio play that I would like to listen to that does all the different voices.
The dramatizations. Yeah. Who's the narrator for your
It's
6 books? And I couldn't choose which one, so I bailed.
Let's see. Oh no, it's gonna start playing. Don't do that. I can't tell.
There's a
It's from the movie, so it's recent.
What? I couldn't find that.
Yeah, it was on. Yeah, I'll send you the link after this.
That's my cover. That's my cover too.
Yeah,
that's my cover.
What's my cover?
But oh yeah, David Nichols Jr. is also listening to the audiobooks of the audiobook. The songs are hilarious. I had to go and listen to the versions from the movies after the chapters. I'm going to do that tonight because, and someone on Twitter shared and tagged us in it some of the songs. But having one dude do all the different songs of the elves and the dwarves and everyone and he's getting really into it though, so I do appreciate the narrator.
That was like in Harry Potter, poor Jim.
Yep. Jim Dale, right?
Yeah.
Jim Dale.
I have
Hoggy, Hogwarts.
I remember when the movie did come out that one of the criticisms was there's too many songs in this movie. Especially compared to the 3 Lord of the Rings films that everybody's used to, this very serious tone. And I remember either I was about to read the book or having just read the book that I was like, nah, dude, they cut songs. There are way more. There's so many more.
It's a very song-filled. Well, so for oh yeah, which is that the score?
Yeah, baby, and the few songs
and the
that
songs,
are in the film.
Yeah,
Misty
I'm definitely
Mountains,
gonna listen to those. And for everyone joining us, we're doing the first 6 chapters today. We'll do the next couple in the following one. Once we get to the end of the book, we're definitely going to be discussing the movies, not just the trilogy, which I am going to rewatch. And I don't think I actually watched the second and third ones all the way through. I saw the first one in theaters and was mad. But everyone has to watch the animated one. I will find the link and I will tweet it and I will send it out. I'm pretty sure it's just on YouTube. But
I because I've been reading this book, have been listening to the soundtrack while.
Yeah, which is
I did
Hector's
it for Hector.
favorite thing.
Yeah, because I got you onto audiobooks, so I was wondering. It's very distracting.
I'm sorry, say that again. Your audio keeps continually cutting out. You said it's very distracting.
I did. It's very distracting because if you're not reading fast time and it doesn't match the mood of the book.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if that would bother me.
Maude, you have to go here. There's a very simple solution. Once you pick a song for the part of the book that you're in, you got to hit repeat right there. See that?
Yeah.
See that? And it'll
I will say, though, that some of the songs are the names of the chapter.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Very helpful. Very helpful for when we get to Riddles in the Dark, that chapter. You can just go to the track Riddles in the Dark and just
that's my favorite
loop it and just live in that feeling, which is great.
I have a request for Hector. Would you? There's a blurb on the backs of the books ahead of us. I believe it's also in the prompter.
Okay.
I miss dramatic readings from you two. For anyone who didn't watch Alpha Book Club, often Maude and Hector would do these amazing accents and impressions, and I would just watch along because I'm not good at any of that. So I would like that to happen.
I feel like this has got to be Maude because she has an actual accent.
That's true.
And Tolkien might not have been Australian, but close enough, damn it. And I feel like Maude can nail it.
That was my concern.
But I'll give it a go.
Give it a go.
You tell me, you stop.
That was what I was thinking. What? Otherwise, I would have asked.
All right, cool. Is a hobbit who enjoys a comfortable, unambitious life, rarely traveling any farther than his pantry. Is it already doing it? Or are you just laughing at my read? Okay. But his contentment is disturbed when the wizard, Gandalf, and a company one day to whisk him away on an adventure. They have launched a plot to raid the treasure hoard guarded by Smaug the Magnificent, a large and very dangerous dragon. Though reluctantly joins their quest, unaware that on his journey to the Lonely Mountain, he will encounter both a magic ring, and a frightening creature known as
Gollum. That's what she said. Yeah.
Gollum, yeah.
That's what I said. God, I said it perfectly.
Amazing.
Gollum.
Amazing. That was excellent. That was exquisite.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Somebody has a question in the chat real quick before we move on to whatever else we're supposed to be moving on to. Scrambled Megs says, do you all like or hate movie version book covers? And I know Rachel has a strong opinion. For me, I love it only if I already like the movie. Like I'm not gonna, if I dislike a film, I'm not gonna seek out the film cover. But if I can ever get a easily found paperback of a book that has a movie from it, and it always has that now a major motion picture, but I happen to like the movie, then I'm fine with it. So yeah. Rachel, how do you feel about that?
It's not honestly, I mean, it doesn't bother me necessarily. I will seek out the oldest version. I just don't like the newer versions. I like old looking book covers in general. Or if there's something like Stranger in a Strange Land or The Martian Chronicles have really have many like psychedelic covers, so I like getting multiple copies to look at those. That I really like. But there's something very shiny and not necessarily about the film adaptation. I like a lot of film adaptations of books, and I generally don't get as, and honestly, my thing about The Hobbit is not that it's like that they're terrible. It's just that I don't think it should be 3 movies. And I saw the first one in 4K. I don't know. I saw it in something real that looked like when you have motion smoothing on your TV, and it was. So I'm interested to watch it again. But yeah, I generally go for the classic covers over made for a motion picture, but it's not like, oh, I can't stand it. I just will try to find a different copy.
For me, the achievement is just having the book. That's the achievement. So what it looks like, what the front cover is, what edition it is, it's irrelevant. The fact that you have it is why you're winning.
Okay.
Okay. Now that I am an adult with limited space, I do a lot of ebooks and audiobooks, and I'll buy physical copies of the ones I really love. So that's another reason. And I have, my shelf where I have sort of like, I like to organize by theme and different things like that. So,
and if the book fits, it sits.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of this book. So everyone really knows J.R.R. Tolkien, although I did not know his name was John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. It's a pretty good name. I understand why he shortened it to J.R.R. Tolkien. It's pretty badass. Born in 1892, died in 1973, a professor and linguist, in addition to being a writer, which makes a ton of sense because he invented languages and stuff. His works are obviously very much influenced by World War I and the horrors that his generation saw. You can really, I think, especially what I remember about the end of this book, definitely pick up on this idea of comrades going out and knowing that not all of them are going to come back in this way that in World War I was so unlike any other. I mean, it was called the Great War at the time, so it's unlike anything else anyone ever experience. So you see that right in the beginning where they're all like, well, funeral arrangements, we'll figure it out. It might not come back, you know. And Bilbo's like, wait, hold on 1 second. What? He was also a very good friend and contemporary to another famous British writer, C.S. Lewis. Stephen put in the script, where my Narniacs at? I do love Narnia. I do. I feel very great saying that. I would love to do the Narnia books. We could do like a couple in a month probably because they're
never read them. Never
I love
read them.
Magician's Nephew. That was my favorite one.
I read the first couple.
Yeah. And then The Hobbit was published in 1937, and the more adult follow-up, Fellowship in the Ring, was published in 1954. So big jump. For everyone who followed along with Alpha Book Club, that's kind of similar to Anne Rice. Her first novel was Interview with the Vampire, I think in like 75, and then mid 70s, and then she didn't publish the sequel to that, Vampire Lestat, until 8 to 10 years later. So
wow.
Very similar, and you can see with both writers how their prose changes and grows, because this clearly was very accessible to me as a kid when Lord of the Rings was like, there's a lot, although there are, I forgot how many dwarves there are in this, and I definitely in my head they also, I know certain ones, and
can you name them? Can you name them right now?
No.
Maude, can you name them?
Thorin, Dori,
Gilly, Feely.
There's no Gilly.
Isn't there?
Gilly.
Aren't there two? Gilly.
There's Keely and Feely.
Okay, Keely. Okay, fine. All right. Close enough.
Chili.
No, it's Thorin.
Philly Town.
Oin, Gloin, Philly, Killy. Wait, Gloin is Gimli's dad.
Yeah.
Already said Thorin. Biffer, Bomber, Boffer.
Damn.
Dwalin, Ballin.
What the heck, Hector?
God, I'm missing two more. I'm missing two.
Three more.
Wikipedia on your other one.
Wait, three more? No, two more. That's the 12.
13.
And then the 13 is Gandalf. And then the 14
Was there an Odin?
No. I'm missing some. It's Oin, Gloin, and maybe there's another Oin that I'm missing. And Biffer, Bomber,
who's the
Boffer.
rotund one that carries Bilbo on his back?
Orin, I think.
Orin.
No. Is it Orin?
No.
Oh my gosh. It might be Buffer or Bomber or something. I don't know.
Okay.
It helps when you watch the movie actually, because they kind of go, okay, what do we miss? Nori? Yeah. That's what it was. Nori, Ori, Dory.
Nori.
I got Dory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dory, Nemo, Buzz, Woody, Jesse. There's a whole bunch of them. Mm-hmm.
Right. Tolkien, Vincent J. Rubio says, Tolkien claims that his books have nothing to do with his real life experiences, but come on, we all know the truth. Yeah. I mean,
I want to talk about that because it's like all about the whole World War, Great War. This is what it's like to go on an epic adventure that you may not come back from, where you're reluctant.
Mm-hmm.
But also, he's doing it in a way which allows escapism.
Yeah.
So he's created a fantasy version of that, which is almost to protect you from real.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that dichotomy kind of really,
which I think is the best. Yeah, the best version, or the best. The reason why I love science fiction and fantasy and things like that. Like we've talked about Harry Potter, we've talked about even outside of the book realm, Battlestar Galactica during the Iraq War or the beginning of the Iraq War, and using and going all the way back to Shakespeare and stop. Okay, fine. Shakespeare and Boccaccio taking modern social political moments in history and putting them outside of the city or into something fantastical to comment on it, but also to protect themselves, to get more people interested in it. I think it's like the idea of the, broccoli is the airplane on the spoon sort of thing, where you can get people to start thinking about, ideally, social consciousness and history and all of these different topics. Sorry, I'm a little bit of a brat right now. But yeah, I think that is super interesting.
Yeah.
He created the notion of the orc and dwarf and elf, really, like this kind of fantastic. He coined it because there's one thing that happened, because linguistic person, studier, professor, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
I'd put too many syllables in there.
Linguistics.
Yeah. But what I think's interesting is that he says, I know that dwarfs is supposed to be FS, but I will be using or in the S. And I was like, I've only ever written dwarves with a V. And I always got a red squiggly line. And I'm like, I don't understand why they're not spelled right. Dwarfs, plural, is FS. Like, oh my God, he actually coined how you spell that now.
Yep. That's crazy. That is, I mean, also looking at, you know, Elvish and all of the different languages. One thing about not reading the physical copy of the book, do you guys have the runes and the maps in your book?
Ooh, I mean, we have maps I've got maps at the beginning. At the
beginning, because the book that I had as a kid showed showed the map with the runes, and then when you get to we'll get to that chapter, but when they go, much like Bilbo, I love me a good map. Yeah, well, let's dive into the chapters, because I want to get into the Elvish, you know, and that's in the beginning. So in chapter 1, an unexpected party, we learned that my lifestyle is that of the hobbits. Second dinner, second breakfast, cake for every meal, like soft things like smoking, hanging out. Don't want unexpected guests, really. Like when people FaceTime me and they don't give me a heads up, and it's happening more and more now, I'm like, I have to plan to be around people. I felt for Bilbo so much in this chapter.
I have called so many that have declined my FaceTime. They don't get a second ring.
That's me. I'll be like, hey, I'm not. I don't know Maude, if I wouldn't do it to you necessarily.
Maude, did you let them know you were going to FaceTime them?
No.
Okay, see, that's your problem right there. That's what we're talking about. You're being a real Dwalin. You can't just show up on the door unannounced. That's what this is about.
But I think that you are worthy for a phone call.
Maybe I'm not ready for it.
You're not Gandalf. You're being a Dwalin is what we're saying. Gandalf's cool. He's facilitating. You gotta facilitate.
I'm being a Gandalf.
No,
I'm choosing an adventure and my party member.
You're being a Dory at best. You're just showing up and eting the food. That's the thing. Yeah,
I get that though.
Now listen here, introvert.
I feel like Hector's an ambivert though.
What is that?
It's kind of a mix of two.
It's like when you're stuck in a rock and then your DNA can make a dinosaur. Is that what that is?
What?
Yep, Amber. No, it's when you're a mix of introverted and extroverted.
I'll give you that. Yeah. I'll give you that. Uh-oh. Will she answer it?
Hello?
She did it! She did it! Yes!
Man.
See, it's not so hard. It's lovely.
I can't believe that. What a Dwalin thing to do, to put somebody on the spot on an internet show live.
What if I ignored you?
Seriously.
I'm like, I can see.
Wow.
Also, everyone turn your phones on silent.
It was on silent.
Oh, because of the laptop. Got it. Sorry.
Yep, it was the laptop calling.
So this is a great discussion that we usually have in book club, where it's like you really get to show whose personality fits into which character, and in that way. Team Gandalf, where are you at in my comments? AKA, you can just FaceTime if you feel like chatting with someone. Or are you Team Bilbo and you need delegated time to talk using your face?
Designated time, yeah.
I'm definitely, like, I don't think I'm a full Bilbo where I wouldn't be like, I would be stoked to go on an adventure with a dragon. It would take me a minute, which I guess is true. He starts out very much thinking he doesn't want to go. Why is everyone here? Wow. Especially like 13 people showing up when you didn't even want to invite one person, and they're eating all of your cake like that.
So I get it, where it's like they're coming over because the hobbits are people of politeness. Like they have social etiquette and you adhere to that. Even when he didn't want to talk to Gandalf, I'll invite you over just because it's good manners. So to have these dwarves come in, I completely agree. I would hate people just rocking up to my house uninvited theirs, even though I've never met them. I feel like that was a complete not a good thing to do.
I also find it interesting that he's being polite, but Gandalf also just cuts through the BS, right? Like he's like,
time.
Oh, good morning. You just want me to leave. And I do appreciate that he does draw Bilbo out of his shell, and you get some of the backstory, A, on hobbits, and B, on the Took family, which is also fun for Lord of the Rings book or movie fan. Fool of a Took is a very classic line. I'm not going to do the accent, but learning that he has this adventure sort of simmering in his blood, and as all the dwarves are singing and he kind of goes to his little fainting couch after they start talking about going on an adventure, and he hears them talking smack about him and waltzes in, is like, well, you may not have been talking about me, but I could do it if I wanted to. That I totally get, because I don't think he expected them to follow through with it. But then as you go through the chapters and get some of his inner experiences, he loves the elvish songs. He wants to hold off dinner to listen to them sing different things, where you start to feel like, okay, he is a reluctant hero, reluctant burglar, but there is this call, pulling him in, which I really like.
Hear me out for this analogy. It's something like 64% of Americans don't. So America is the Shire.
Okay.
And Gandalf is giving Bilbo a
passport to travel all over the world.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so I feel like as soon as, because like Bilbo's heard stories, he knows what a wolf sounds like through stories, but so it's like that kind of thing where he's learning the first time. And that's why, and I think the adventure gets exciting, because on the first part of the road, it starts raining, everything's wet, he's miserable.
Yeah.
Like
don't weeks and months go by, right? Doesn't a lot of time go by, and they're just
they're going through towns, they're seeing people, and I do like that too. I feel like in a lot of books we would stop and talk to every tavern owner and so, and it's like, that's not the meat of this particular story. But then they end up going through and there's no more people of any type anywhere. And that's when we get to kind of the fun stuff starts happening with the
trolls and everybody.
Yeah. What did you think of that section?
I really liked it, and I'll make an admission about the fantasy genre in general, but specifically about this book and the Lord of the Rings books, is that to me, having seen the movies first helps immensely for two reasons. Number one, just visually, just to get a grip on what the world looks like visually. And I tell you, it doesn't hurt to visualize the beautiful vistas of New Zealand when you're reading, right? Like that's amazing. But secondly, it also helps because little moments where these characters, because to me in The Hobbit, the characters are very simply written. There's barely any moments of characterization. There's some there, but it's really just about, so it's a fairy tale, and it's definitely like a kid's story for me. So to have actors portray some of these characters and to have me hear what they sound like and what they
and have them be distinct.
Distinct. But I'll give you one specific example too, not to just keep bringing up the movie, but it helps because when I read this now, I do picture I don't hear not just Martin Freeman's voice for Bilbo, but also his like mannerisms and the way that he acts, and he adds such this great nervous energy to Bilbo that when Bilbo passes out from hearing about the dragons, I can recall that moment of Martin Freeman just like knocking out. And for me, it helps to kind of modernize and humanize all of the characters across the board, so that it helps me get into the story more. So it's less about, it's this little cartoony, not to knock the cartoon, because the cartoon is amazing. But instead of thinking like, it's a very simplified sort of children's storybook type character, I really am visualizing them and thinking of them as flesh and blood people whether they're dwarves or hobbits or wizards or whatever. And it helps me to pick up on some of those little moments of characterization and inner monologue and personality that I think this book and even the Lord of the Rings books, they honestly don't have that much of, because that's not what the story is concerned with. The story is not concerned with, we're going to throw you a bunch of great personalities. The story is concerned with this mythic, fairy tale story of dragons and gold and adventures and trolls, and all that stuff's great. So for
Have
me,
you read the Lord of the Rings one?
I read a book and a half. I got halfway through Two Towers and found it to be, it's amazing. It's very epic, but it is drier than The Hobbit. The Hobbit is like, there's something to snack on, The Hobbit is some,
and it's very
jerky.
playful. The cartographer says, I like that the narrator is kind of a character in the book, which is great for a kid's book. I love the narrator. I love that he's like, by the way, about this, and there's this story I wish I could tell you, but I can't tell you. And I just love that.
It takes me out instantly. It's like,
really? I like it.
That doesn't surprise me that Maude does not like it.
I know.
But it's also, it would be confusing because he would use past and present tense incorrectly.
Yeah.
Or hasn't, or will, or won't.
Look at my physical copy because I was just
Maude.
enjoying the ride, the adventure, and not thinking about it.
He's making
acknowledge
this shit
who
up.
You are. Don't say I'll do that later. Who are you?
He's making this shit up as he goes along. He is definitely and that is true of every book ever. And this has a lack of polish that I think is charming, only because we have, since this book's come out in 1937 and the sequels in the 50s and the movies in the 2000s, we have heaped so much amazing polish on these works of fiction. But in reality, all of the Tolkien historians will tell you the books are full of inaccuracies and errors, contradictions. I get it. I'm a comic book guy. It's the same stuff that comic book fans deal with. It's like, you just gotta power on through sometimes, man.
I feel like the narrator is used as a core. Or this is another thing, but never mind. I know no coherency, but it's like the narrator interjects when there's like, oh, I probably should have told you about that. Chime in, but there's no flow. I
like it because it feels like you're hearing an oral history almost. And I also think that the animated movie that I grew up on, I think that was another reason that and sort of the length of the book and the story that it's telling, that I was frustrated with the films being sort of drawn out into this Lord of the Rings-esque epic when it is more playful, fun, clever riddles. Like there's a different vibe to it. Miss Necromancer says that since I hadn't read it, I was very much expecting Lord of the Rings feel, and it's very different. Stephen says, I read the entire Silmarillion and a couple books that broke it down before I realized I wasn't that into it. It's very dry. And that's what I felt like with Lord of the Rings as well. Yeah, I know. I think I tried this. I had the whole collection and I tried like different one-off stories too.
Do you think that maybe... sorry, just to get in a point. Do you think that Hobbit is so lightweight and using the no exposition, whereas the trilogy, it's all like exposition?
What was the first part of your question? You said, do you think The Hobbit is light because it's light on exposition? Is that what you're asking?
The narrator is using exposition. It's like, this is what's happening. That's because of this.
I also, here, let me give you guys a little side story too, real quick. When Lord of the Rings movies were coming out, I found a really nice book, paperback, that had all three of the Lord of the Rings, big, like, phone book size book. And because I dug the movies, I'm like, I'm going to try it. In the beginning of that version, there was a whole introduction by somebody who was basically saying, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Tolkien, when he set off to write these, he was kind of testing himself to see how much he could stretch a thing out. So it's going to meander. There's lots of descriptions of mountains and trees. That's what he was like. He was seeing his own limits of that. And I think that coupled with, it also described how, because the first book, The Hobbit, came out in 1937, instead of him trying to achieve this same thing in the 50s, he knew kids who read this in 1937 were not going to be like in college almost 20 years later. So he's like, well, I'm going to write like a college age. So even he was understanding of, this is a certain tone for a certain age. The other books are a certain tone for a different age. So I think both of those things, him trying to test himself with how, lettery and floofy he could be mixed with, he was aiming for that higher intellect, means that these two works are so different. And you're probably right, Maude. It's probably because he was like exposition. And in this one, he's like, here's a fun song. I'm so high right now. They just kept going.
Just, like Pippin, just like a little bit of the hookah.
I never recommend this, but I haven't seen the movie since the first time and only time I've seen it. I was drawing on memory. I think that you should watch the movie before you read the book.
Boom, baby. Ooh, that's one down.
You cannot eat me to 13 dwarves and only make them indistinguishable in name, and one of them being a bit of a tub.
That's it. And Thor and Oakenshield. Yeah, that's it.
I think that's sort of part of the book. I don't know. I'm going to, Hector, you said that the first movie basically covers what we read.
It's exactly what we read.
So I'm probably going to watch that tonight. I'm probably going to watch.
It's amazing. It ends exactly with the Eagles dropping him off and then going like, and then it was perfect.
So I was noticing, I believe it's the paragraph of chapter 4. 4, yeah. Hector, could you just read the first paragraph of chapter 4 for me? And I want everyone to hear it, wondering how we can make this 40.
Okay, here we go. There were many paths that led up into those mountains and many passes over them, but most of the paths were cheats and deceptions and led nowhere or to bad ends. And most of the passes were infested by evil things and dreadful dangers. The dwarves and the Hobbit, helped by the wise advice of Elrond and the knowledge and memory of Gandalf, took the right road to the right pass.
But I mean, as a producer who has to stretch this out, they were like, do they the first time? Or are we going to show them these paths and these enemies?
My favorite is the one paragraph in the book that was like, and then they saw the thunder giants having a fight. And that's a whole 8 minutes in the movie. Like, that's another great example of like, ooh, let's do some crazy big CG stuff.
More and it's more flavor for, I like that it's this aside, but I also want to talk about the elves because they're described so differently in the books than they are ever portrayed in the movies.
Before the description, we meet elves in chapter 3.
Yeah, man.
If you'd asked me, I would have said probably chapter 16 we would have met the elves. 3.
No. Tolkien had a good
based on the
idea.
movies, you mean?
He wanted to get to it.
This chapter 3, that is so fast. But I felt like I'm reading this book at 12 times the speed of the movies.
Yeah, because it should be one movie. And it should. I mean, you could maybe make the argument for 2, which I think was their first plan. And then they were like, nope, I'm going to do 3. And I was like,
And I think, I don't know if y'all are aware of this. I think original Venom actor Topher Grace did do his own edit of these 3.
Like with the Star Wars
thing? He did it with the Star Wars prequels. He made a 2.5-hour cut of the episodes 1, 2, and 3 Star Wars prequels. I think he did the same thing with the Hobbit films. He trimmed them down to maybe 3 hours or something. And I would be interested to see that too. I'm sure that it would in a lot of ways work.
Watch the animated movie.
True.
It's a perfect adaptation. But yeah, I love what did y'all think of the elf sequences? Because when I think of the elves from Lord of the Rings, I think some serious folks with long locks.
Do you guys remember the first season of The Simpsons? What they looked like?
Oh yeah.
How they were drawn.
Yeah.
Even how Homer sounded, where he's like, "Come here, boy," and it's it's all a little off.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't quite figured it out. That's all this is. Is Tolkien going like, okay, there's some elves and they're gonna sing some songs. They're funny, man. They're funny. And then 20 years later, he's like, what if they're not? What if they're here? So that's all. You just have to cut him some slack. He's figuring it out.
It doesn't bother me at all. I remember as a kid, my copy having the moon runes and just thinking that was the coolest thing. And my copy, cool. I'm gonna have to text my dad. I mean, I can't see him right now because quarantine, but maybe he'll take a picture of it for me. See, if my dad has it, it showed because you have the map, and it would show the map in the book when you first see it, when they're going through, they have to find the hidden door in the mountain to get to Smaug, dragon. I'll never not say Smaug.
Smaug. Great.
Smaug the dragon. But they show the different versions of it as you're sort of discovering what's happening. And for a person who, and especially kid who didn't see it in my head, I love having, it was very much like, I don't need picture books by like a very young age, but obviously, because I was such a brat, but just a book brat in general. But
this is a great comment in the chat. Stephen Goodwin says the 1977 animated Hobbit is a $3 rental on Amazon or YouTube. So that's great.
Your homework for the last episode.
The last, not this. Yeah, we'll save it. We'll save it.
The final one, because I mean, you know how they ask, like, what could you give a 3-hour presentation, a TED talk on something? Animated Hobbit would be up there. Rankin and Bass also did the last unit anyway. But I just loved the idea that only on a certain day, at a certain time, through a certain type of moon, would they ever be able to figure this out. And it happens to be then. Like, I just love the sort of mysticism of that.
How did you guys feel about the goblin section? Chapter 4, Overhill and Underhill.
I was kind of relieved we didn't have to look at them, because I remember the Goblin King looking like a wart on a shit. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. He definitely looked like a shorn, sickly scrotum is what his chin looked like.
Yeah,
shorn
like that. But
who wait until you see it again.
I'm gonna watch it tonight, but
yeah. But I was just excited because I knew that was going to lead to the next chapter, which is Gollum, and I love that whole section.
So the problem with The Hobbit, you're speed reading. By the time you realize that it's just pivoted, because he does it again as a throwaway where they're just sleeping in a cave, everything was going well until like, what? How? It changes so fast as like an afterthought, and that is really bothersome. So I actually missed a lot of detail
where they're in the cave and he's sleeping and having the dream and sees the crack in the wall, and then it's like, that's
because they'll be like, because everyone was sleeping and it was fine, but then he was having a dream because this happened, but that's because it
and then they fall. I kind of secretly want this thing to happen by the end of us reading this book, which is we read the book, we realize what the book is, and I secretly want us to just appreciate the movies even a little bit more, because
I feel like it might,
because that was my experience. Again, when first time I read the book, I went, I don't hold this as precious as everybody having the memories of when they read it when they were a kid or their parents,
For me, it's less about that and more just about adding the sheer
Hollywood machine. Hollywood machine. I get it.
The balls of taking this tiny, tiny book and making it a stuffed 3-movie like action packed, with orcs.
Yeah. Here's a great comment. Kate Myers, our friend Kate, said the elves in The Hobbit are apparently wood elves, who are the slack-jawed yokels of the elf world, which is why they were like, hey, Ma, come look at this Hobbit.
Which makes so much more sense. What is... But
I was picturing Hugo Weaving the whole time.
I know.
Well, because he's Elrond. He is Elrond. And Elrond was at least that's
insane to me. Although he is a little bit more... Yeah.
And also, listen.
What happens between them?
It's already inconsistent to begin with, but I do want to nerd remind everyone. This is a true fact. Frodo, when he went on his adventure, Elijah Wood was already like 75 years old.
Yeah, the Hobbit ages are very different.
Right.
So.
And at the beginning of even the Fellowship of the Ring, when Gandalf shows up and Frodo Bilbo leaves the ring, another like 30 years go by, and then the adventure starts or something. Like he plays with time in such a way where you're like, what? And even though elves live forever, I still feel like there's a good distance of time between the events of this story, which feels like it's right. Like it's Gandalf gathering these guys to be like, let's go party. This will be fun. And then by the time Lord of the Rings happens, he's like, shit just got real.
Yeah. To save the world. Yeah. I also love the juxtaposition of Bilbo being so reluctant to go, and then having him come back and be this very famous character, so that Frodo is dying to go on an adventure. You know,
did
I think that's really
anyone get Dumbledore vibes where he's made the
say that again, where he's made the what?
He knows the fate that's been intertwined.
Which fate?
Yeah. Bilbo, where he knows more than Bilbo does. He's like, he can do it. This is his role. This is what he'll do. He's the only one. He's the chosen one that I know his fate, even though he doesn't.
And like you're saying, Maude, but Gandalf still is like technically withholding information from Bilbo. Totally Dumbledore. Absolutely.
Because I think that archetype too of character where they're all-knowing, they're sort of the older, all-powerful mentor. If you tell, the theory is, I think the Harry Potter one, as we've debated in previous versions of this book club, is different because he's a child, but it's spoiler alert.
Bilbo's a man. He has hair on his feet. He's a man.
He has hair on his feet. He eats second breakfast. He owns his own hole.
I don't even know how to do it.
Smoke rings. I'm not going to do it on air, but it's killing me not to be.
You gotta have a long pipe.
Oh, that's
weird.
But I'm finding stuff in my chair. But the idea that if you tell them what's going to happen, then it impacts their fate, right? So you can't tell someone they're going to be a hero. That in it of itself is going to change how they would behave as a reluctant hero, sort of thing.
What did you all think of the moment when the ring showed up? Because having all of this knowledge of what that was going to be later in the books, the movies, everything, and it feels like Tolkien doesn't know. Like he's just like,
I don't think he did.
No,
he didn't. And we were talking before we went on about how there were elements that were added after Lord of the Rings was published.
Oh, really?
I think one of them, just little lines, and I think one of them was the had the ring chosen its master or something like that. There's something in there that makes it seem a lot more than just, whoa, this crazy ring makes him because when I read it, I remember thinking, oh, this is such a random thing for him to find. But I love Gollum. I love the riddles. I love this entire chapter. I think that Bilbo, like, obviously he's trying to survive, but I love that he almost doesn't make it. It's almost half of what happens is an accident. Him shouting out, "Give me more time," and that's actually the answer to the riddle.
And he goes, "No."
I know. Oh, yep.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
Or he's like, oh, "What's in my pocket? Oh, that's not fair. What's in my pocket?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love knowing Gollum, both from the animated movie and the Lord of the Rings. I think Andy Serkis does obviously an incredible job in everything, but especially in this. Although I will say, now that it's on Disney Plus, I think Black Cauldron, watch it again. Yergi, the little dog, does the Gollum voice in the 80s. Andy Serkis's Gollum voice.
Question, Rachel, what's Gollum like remind me in the 1977 animated Hobbit? What's he sound like?
That's what my whole TED talk would be about, is just the Gollum scene. No, just he is
whoa. He looks like a frog.
He's like a little frog man, and he's like Can I do it?
Yeah.
The ring, my birthday present. He's very like much more like, I don't know, less pathetic and more creepy.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, he's like a little frog man because he's evolved to live in the caves and in the water. But I'm
like, evolution takes how many thousands, millions?
But we don't know. I mean, that ring, if we're looking to Lord of the Rings and the history of Smeagol, aka Gollum, he's been down there for quite some time, sort of like living off of the power of the ring, right? And when the first one was lost, that's, eons ago. Someone fact check me because I don't remember the lore very well, and I don't presume to. Nobody help me out, please.
Java Book Geek Girl
been down there for a long time.
Java Book Geek Girl said, knowing what the ring is didn't change how I read the scene as much, but I do want to find out how the chapter was originally written because it was rewritten to take into account like the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and I
that
think
was obvious. I feel like that was obvious, but I did have when he felt in for the ring, I was like,
oh no, don't do it.
Well, he needed to, because otherwise he would never have escaped. He needed the ring.
True.
And that's when his fate began. Or
the whole, it all gets sort of set into motion there.
Yeah. Did you guys like the last chapter? Out of the frying pan, into the fire.
Yeah, I did.
That's how Ian McKellen would say it. It was good. I forgot that wolves talk and eagles talk in this, because that's again one. That's
wargs.
Wargs. Yeah, but they're called, aren't they called wolves or no? They're just called wargs.
They're wolves, and then as an aside, he goes and. Okay, that's because they're not wolves, they're wargs. Now you should know that. Okay, back to the story. And you're like, just start.
He's just making it up. He's making it up. He's just making it up as he goes up.
Write a book on notes and like just said it all, like, and then it was written and then sent off.
But I think that, I mean, part of it is, yes, it's a different type of book than what his later ones would be, but also that voice of someone telling you a story. I don't know. I like, and maybe it's because I'm listening to it. It does feel like someone sitting me around a fire, and maybe we're drinking mead or wine, and they've tied on a few too many. And so he's like, wait, no, actually, sorry, scratch that. And it feels like someone actually telling me a story, which I really like. But it's also confusing, which many, I think, high fantasy-esque stories run into, where warging in Game of Thrones is an action the three-eyed raven and Bran do, and then there's wargs here, and you sort of are like, I don't know. I find that interesting too. And the concept of wargs evolved in Lord of the Rings and beyond, says Stephen.
Thank you, Stephen.
I think I like that they talk. I'm pretty sure they talk in the animated one. They have to.
I do like that the Eagles talk, because in this book they explain why, as movie fans, the joke has always been, why didn't the Eagles just take them all the way to the mountain? That's the end of the movie. And in this book, the Eagles are like, straight up, we're not going to fly over man's land. They'll shoot us down. Bye. And you go, why didn't they just say that one sentence in any of these movies?
I know. Just like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
I know my internet connection is unstable. Thanks for the reminder. But I just want to ask, obviously Gandalf has to save them all the time, because the magic users and the wizards are the most powerful. Because Gandalf likes being in control and likes having the power trip. Is it because there are so few wizards even become a wizard? How is this a thing?
Well, I asked similar questions, and you're not going to get answers if you know the movies. And I think maybe the books cover it a little bit, but I had to have Lord of the Rings nerd friends tell me like, oh, okay, he's not really a wizard like a person. He's something called an angel. And there was like 6 of them. And now there's 2 of them or something. Like there was 5 of them. And now, no, is that how much time we have? We have 5 minutes. But there are also 5 of them. He's like an angel, a being who's like immortal. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't care. So it's not. So it's
not want to sign up for that job. Like, out of all the jobs, both got it easy. Gandalf having to not only scout ahead, check in with his buddies, the elves and the eagles and the this, and learn some more.
Sometimes you got to step up and take responsibility for a bunch of dumb dwarves and hobbits, though.
But
like, I understand being frustrated and being like, just fine, I'll just handle this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll distract the trolls. I'll save the day. Every single time
and kill the leader.
Yeah.
But I do, to Maude's point, and maybe this is because I'm referencing the joke from the TV show Friends, where Chandler and Ross had a college buddy who they nicknamed Gandalf. This was in the late 90s, before any of these movies came out. And they were like, why? And they're like, because he shows up and he loves to party. Lord of the Rings, he just like he loves to party. We're going to party. And then they told Joey, they're like, didn't you read Lord of the Rings in high school? And he goes, no, I had sex in high school. And that was the joke. So maybe I'm thinking that Hobbit Gandalf, again, like we're saying, all this time has changed, is very different from Lord of the Rings Gandalf. Hobbit Gandalf, I think, does like to have a good time. Hobbit Gandalf shows up, he dips out, he doesn't say why, he comes back whenever. Like, you know,
he doesn't have the same, like, he's stern and bossy, but he doesn't have the gravitas that Lord of the Rings Gandalf does.
Correct. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me. Like, he's just like a fun fireworks
it's like
dude.
Middle-aged Gandalf, where he's like getting a hot rod and having a good time.
I just got a convertible.
We're gonna get so many people.
Bilbo, you should come to Vegas with me, Bilbo. I'm freshly divorced. Yeah. Let's party in Vegas. And Bilbo's like, no, I don't want to do that.
I'm comfortable. I have cake at home.
I brought my own yard glass.
Yeah. We're getting hurricanes. Yeah.
Is the movie The Hangover just The Hobbit? I need to think about that. That's
I
all
don't.
Thank you for coming to Hector's TED Talk.
That would be a lot. Wow, how did we already get through an hour? Well, we've got homework assignments for everyone. Sorry, my cat's yelling at me. For everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. If you are watching this on VOD later, you can comment, you can tweet at us, #Nerdist Book Club. If you have questions or thoughts or we're very wrong, please be nice. Oh, Zelda. Hi. But let us know. We know not everyone can join us live, so we want to make sure that everyone can be a part of this book club. Your homework for next week is to read up to chapter 12. So stop at the end of chapter 11. So that's 7 through 11. As always, we're always looking for what we should read next.
Yes.
So you can still keep tweeting at us, at Nerdist, at any of us. You can find us on, again, using the #Nerdist Book Club. Let us know what books you want to read. We have read
Dresden Book 3.
Yes, that's a good one. The Subtle Knife, the sequel to The Golden Compass.
Yes.
But send us all of your recommendations. And straight after this, please, we are heading for an official after show over on Geekbomb, which is Maude's channel, Geekbomb's Discord. We're going to do a Q&A. It's exclusive for everyone who has the Discord access as a Patreon perk. So Maude, can you tell us more about where people can go and how to get there, and we'll give them time to join.
Yay! So Geekbomb's Discord is home for all. We talk about all video games, books, shows, movies. We weigh in, have general discussion, talk Marvel spoilers. There's a bunch there. But we used to.
Oh no.
The after show.
Yeah, so
if my internet works.
Yeah, I know. We're basically going to, if you go to Geekbomb on, that was a cute one. The Geekbomb, YouTube, Twitter, all those places. You can see the Patreon and join. We're heading over there now to do some Q&A and chat with some of the Discord channel. Thank you everyone so much. We know that everyone is at home. We hope you're staying safe.
Hang on, my cutie just shut up. Hang on.
Oh, show me your cutie.
Oh, my cutie. All right. There we go. More wine.
I almost dipped out to run and get my wine, but I was like, no, I'm gonna stay. I don't have an Abby to bring me wine, but I also thought there was gonna be a cat.
Nope.
Join us on the Discord. Join us every week. We love all of you. We hope you're staying safe, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for your patience with everyone's internet, is mine included, being super fun right now. But we'll see you next week. Talk about the Hobbit.
Bye.
Oh, Zelda. She's so